everyone, this is Mathieu Kadar, and I'm the ghost face in the opening scene in Scream 6. And yes, I'm the one who kills Samara Weaving, and you're watching Craven Something Scary.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. Are you feeling it? Hey guys, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, visitors, subscribers, patrons, and of course, my beloved Cravenites. Welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. And guys, tonight is going to be fun. We are going to have an absolute blast talking about what is my favorite franchise of all time. And I know for many of you here, it's also yours as well. And if it's not your very most favorite, it is right up there knocking on that door. And so we're talking, of course, Scream tonight, not just like Scream 7, where I sometimes do targeted streams and theories. We are talking Scream the franchise. So, yes, we're going to dive in to Scream 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Well, maybe not as much 7, but the first 6 films anyway, as much as we possibly can. And is my echo? You guys hear my? Is my echo? Does my mic sound okay? You guys let me know. I want to make sure you hear me okay. But we're going to be talking Scream the franchise, so it's going to be a great time. And my guest tonight is certainly no stranger to Scream. Let me tell you. I was just talking to him backstage, and I was like, I don't know why I hadn't invited him a long time ago. It's like, duh. But you know what? Sometimes the train goes around the mountain a little slower than other times. And so the main thing is it's happening now. And for this, I'm very excited. So my guest tonight runs the oldest, and when I say the oldest, I mean it's the OG website for Scream. We're talking back to, if I recall right, and I'll ask him about this in a minute, when it actually started. I believe I first found it, gosh, I want to say it was 97, maybe 98, but it was right around there. And it's going strong ever since, guys. So I'm excited. I know you guys are looking forward to it. We have a whole hour tonight with my guests to talk Scream. And before I bring them on, just remember this. Submitting your questions, comments about the franchise. If you want to hear Nick's perspective, my perspective, whatever the case may be, excuse me, you can certainly do that. All right. Send your questions or comments in. I will get to as many as possible. But as you guys know, with 1 hour, we have a whole hour, but that goes so quickly. And it's impossible to get to everyone's questions. And I think you all realize that. So don't take it personal if we don't get to it. It's just the nature of how things go. Okay. However, if you do have a burning question that you really want to get answered tonight, you do have a method. You can send a super chat, and you can send that in by simply clicking that little $sign at the bottom of the chat window. Put your question there, send that in, and we will move you up to the front of the line in front of everybody else, and I'll make sure your question goes on the screen, and Nick and I can talk about that. All right. So you have that as a possible method to do. Don't feel obligated, but of course, if you would like to, you can do so. And it also, not only that, it helps the channel a lot. So I appreciate it. It's a win-win. So keep that in mind. In the meantime, my moderators are putting in the chat how you can follow Nick on his Twitter or X, how you can follow scream-thrillogy on Twitter X. I call it Twitter X. Or how you can just follow Scream-thrillogy, the website. You'll be seeing those links dropping in right now. So be sure you go and follow Nick on Twitter and Scream-thrillogy as well. All right. And the website, if you've never seen it, oh my gosh, go check it out after the stream. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get to it. Please welcome in the chat my guest, the operator, if you will, the king of all things scream-thrillogy.com is Nick Meece. Welcome, Nick.
All right, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you coming tonight and visiting. I've just been looking forward to it, man, and I'm so glad we were able to make it work tonight with everybody, with our schedules and everything. So again, man, I'd like to start at the beginning. All right, let's kind of go way back to the beginning, as I was alluding to earlier. So when did scream-thrillogy.com, when did that actually begin?
Oh man, like you said earlier, it's the '90s. Fun fact, though, it did not start off as scream-thrillogy.com.
Okay.
It was for a while. It was Nick Meece's Scream 3 website.
Oh.
Leading up to the release of Scream 3, I was trying to post updates and stuff like that. Then post Scream 3, it turned into Nick Meece's Scream 4 website.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple.
Okay.
And it still years before Scream 4, then I finally changed it to scream-thrillogy.com.
Love that. Okay. Well, when I found it, man, I'm telling you, and again, a long time ago, so memory, but I remember seeing, I think it was Scream 3, so it had to have been that first version of the site is when I found it. And I just wish I could remember. I wish I could actually remember what I saw on the site. I just remember seeing it, and the internet was so young back then, right? I mean, it was just in its infancy for consumers, for us anyway. But that's incredible, man. And it's been going since Scream. So Scream-thrillogy, that name, it started in what, at 2012, 11, 12, somewhere in there, would you say?
That name, I started using that domain. It was probably around 06, 07.
Oh, okay.
When I started. Yeah. And I've got some interesting stories surrounding all that also.
Oh, well, look, do tell, man. If you have one you'd want to share,
okay.
Before we get into the actual meat of the Scream, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it.
Oh yeah. Obviously in the years after Scream 3, there was a lot of downtime. Scream was a dead franchise. There was nothing.
Right.
But I kept the website going. No traffic, no hits, no nothing. But I kept it going. I kept doing updates. The message board at the time was active, which that was always nice. And I think at the time there was really only one other Scream site around, and that was Tim Wagstaff's ghostface.co.uk.
Okay, I faintly remember that.
Yeah, he had just started that website. It was brand new.
Okay.
So me and him, we teamed up on a few things here and there. And then this was either late 07, early 08. I get an email one day from Dimension Films PR team, like marketing, PR.
Oh, wow.
And they asked me to run a poll on the website.
Oh, cool.
Basically trying to gauge interest for Scream 4.
Wow, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, obviously the results were through the roof. Everybody wanted it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's actually what led to it happening, because nothing actually moved till a few years later. But
okay.
But that was an interesting thing that happened like shortly after I bought the actual domain.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. That's got to be a cool feeling, man. Here comes a message from the studio. Like, whoa, that's one of those moments you never forget. That's so cool, dude. Well, you know what? There you go. You may have actually been directly responsible for Scream 4 happening. I just wish, and I will tell you this while we're, we'll jump back to Scream, but Scream 4 personally is my favorite sequel. That's my favorite. I don't say it's the best or the worst. I don't use those terminologies, because I think all these Scream films are really good movies. I enjoy all of them, but 4 is my personal favorite sequel. And the thing about 4 is, for me at least, in my area where I live, I'm in Texas, and at the time, I did not even know that movie was coming out until it was in theaters. So the marketing, at least here, was horrific. And I have been like on that bandwagon saying, had the Weinsteins spent the money, I think they were just resting on the laurels of the name, like Scream's back, everybody's going to come.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know what I mean? And I've always felt strongly that if they had spent the money to market that movie properly, it would have made tons of money. It would have given Wes another trilogy, and we would have 6 Wes Craven Scream movies, Nick, that we could talk about. And it's so disappointing because the movie was fantastic in my opinion. I mean, I love that movie. You know, I know some people have mixed reactions on it, and that's fine. We do for everything. But personally, though, I think that movie would have been 150 easy in the box office.
But, yeah, and I think it's kind of, I mean, history even speaks for itself when it's almost like the Weinsteins lost hope in Scream 4 even before it came out. And it's honestly, it's solely on them.
It is.
You know, the final product that we got is not what was written.
That's right.
You know, it was supposed to have that ambiguous open ending, cliffhanger ending. We didn't get that. You know, Kevin Williamson was contracted for 4, 5, and 6.
That's right.
You know, Wes Craven was going to come back for 5 and 6. Everything was in place, and Weinstein's, you know, in the 11th hour decided to reshoot this, change that, edit that, and
so frustrating.
That's that.
So frustrating, dude. I know, it's like, where's the DeLorean? Well, you know, where's the DeLorean when you need one? I just so wish we could go back, because, yeah, it's really a shame. I mean, to think that we could have had 6 Wes Craven Screams, and then we could have had, you know, 7 and 8 would have been Radio Silence's Screams, and now we'd be on Scream 9 with Christopher Landon. And, but I know we jumped ahead to Scream 4. So let's go back in time. Let's reverse. Let's go all the way back to Scream 96. And I would love to know, when did you first see it, and what was your reaction either after you turned off the VHS or after you walked out of the theater?
All right. I've told this story a few times, and it gets mixed reactions. But
Okay.
So when the first movie came out, I think I was only 10 years old.
Okay.
When the first one came out, you know, like I was born in 87, so you know I'm 36 now.
Okay.
But I didn't see it in theater. I vaguely remember seeing trailers for it on TV, and I think I even confused it with other stuff. And well, anyways, my neighbor, I was over there. She was my age, the girl I went to school with, and her mom asked me if I'd seen the movie Scream. And I said no. I said I've heard of it, but I hadn't seen it. I remember it had just come out on VHS.
Okay.
And I remember she had it was like the Drew Barrymore blue variant cover. And she said, "Oh, well, you have to watch this right now." And I'm like, okay. And at their house, I remember they had a big screen TV, and they had this big ottoman in the middle of the living room. I remember my friend's mom sat me down on the ottoman, and the opening scene starts, and I don't even know if I made it through it. Like, I was trembling and shaking and scared. Did not want to finish it. I kept trying to get up, and I remember, and this is the part that gets mixed reactions. I remember her mom putting her hands on my shoulders and holding me there, making me finish this opening scene.
You are not going anywhere.
Oh yeah, it sounds much worse than it really was. But I finished the scene, and I remember I was scared, but I was excited, and I was like, I got to see the rest of this movie.
Heck
I thought the killer looked cool. You know, I was like, oh, I had seen that ghost mask and, you know, around Halloween time and stores and everything, but it was just a mask. That's all it was. It was just a mask.
Right.
And in the movie, it's just a mask. You know, but yeah, then I remember borrowing the movie from him. I think I watched it 10 times.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then this was at the time when Scream 2 was just being released in theaters. And so I was able to. I didn't see Scream 2 in theaters, but I did. I bought that the first day it came out, and I think I watched it 10 times. And
nice.
But yeah, my first viewing of Scream is being forced to watch it, and I guess in a weird way, it kind of changed my life. So
I see. It had a good outcome, I guess. Right? It worked out perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Wow, phenomenal. So we got it real quick. We've got a question here from Lighting Ghost. Lighting Ghost, hang tight. I'm going to save that for a little later. Okay, buddy, don't go anywhere. I will make sure we get that one, but I want to work our way up to that question. So just hang tight.
Yeah, and I will answer that.
Oh yes, definitely. So Scream and Polar had mentioned it took her years to watch the opening scene without closing my eyes. Yeah, it was intense.
Hey, the first 18 minutes of Scream is a masterclass in how to make a thriller movie.
It is. It is Wes Craven on all cylinders.
Yep.
And just, I mean, I call Scream '96 a perfect movie, and that I don't use that lightly. I mean, I really believe there's nothing I would change. That movie was just, it was absolutely lightning in a bottle. And I mean, Wes just kicked, you know what? He kicked tail and making that film. Everyone and the cast was perfect, dude. That group they brought together just clicked. Marco Beltrami, which was like basically an unknown,
yeah,
at the time, and Wes wanted what he wanted him to do the music, give him a chance. I mean, I will tell you this: the Scream 6 and 7, all due respect, and I mean that, all due respect to Brian Tyler. He's a talented composer. He's done some good stuff, but for me, the scores in both of those movies, they're not memorable for me. There's moments that I'm like, okay, you know, that sounds good, but for the most part, like every Beltrami score, all 4 films, they're memorable to me. Like I can turn on a soundtrack right now on Spotify and listen to it and picture the scenes. I can recall moments by just hearing it. I can't do that with these new films. I turn it on and I'm like, what was going on here? I don't remember this. So, and again, they worked with Brian and Ready or Not. And there's, you know, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I know Christopher Landon has a history with Bear. I never remember his last name. The composers, it's Bear, and he's done amazing big time motion pictures.
Yeah, I know you're talking about the name.
Yeah. It's me too. And so he's used him a lot. So I'm kind of expecting him to do the Scream 7 music, but I won't lie, man. I'm hoping in my inner core that Beltrami returns. Could you imagine having Marco Beltrami back for Scream 7, dude?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Gosh, it would be amazing. So Scream 1, yeah, Scream 1, phenomenal masterpiece level film in my book, 100%.
Yeah, there's very minimal things that I would change about the first movie in order for me personally to elevate it to a perfect movie. There's again, very few things I would change.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I got to tell you too, the when I watched this, I actually having a few more years on you, I was actually able to see Scream in theaters after work. And I will never forget it. It was one of those moments where I just never forget. I'll never forget it. You know, I remember going, I can tell you what cinema I saw it at, everything. And I remember watching that movie and thinking to myself, this is unbelievable. This is a whodunit murder mystery, thriller, slasher horror movie by the great Wes Craven. And I said, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal. And when the ending came up, and guys, we're talking spoilers because look, if you're here tonight, we assume, and I know by most of you that are here, you guys have seen these movies inside and out. So we're going to be talking about everything. But whenever that ending was revealed, I'm like, oh gosh, the fake out with Billy, brilliant writing. And I'm like, then he's back alive, and then he shoots Randy. I'm like, oh, it was Billy. The whole time it was Billy. I knew it, but they faked me out. And then she's like, Stu, help me, Stu. And she turns to the kitchen, and Stu brings up that voice changer. Surprise, Sydney. Yeah. And I said, no, my head blew up, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
I never expected two people.
Yeah, that's the twist of the first movie, is that there's two killers.
Yes.
I hear people now, they say all the time, they're like, Scream 1 didn't have a twist. They were like, you saw Billy a mile away.
Oh gosh.
It's like, yeah, you did, but that wasn't the twist. The twist was there was two killers. Like, that's the twist. That hadn't been done in a whodunit teen slasher before.
That's right. Nude Brown was broken there. It blew my mind. And that was the moment that, I already was in love with the movie at that point. But when I saw that ending, I was like, this movie is the best movie I've ever, my favorite movie I've ever seen. And it still is all these years later. And I've seen it 100+ times easily, maybe more than that. And I never tire of it, Nick. I could turn it on right now with you and do a watch party and love every second of that movie and still jump and still feel the intensity just like the first time.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just so well done. All right. So Scream 1, and then we anything else about Scream 1 you want to mention before we move on to 2?
I guess I'll hit a little bit on just the things that I would change about it personally.
Sure.
And again, I think what they gave us is great. So I wouldn't add anything to it. I think, Craven and Company gave us perfect stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would change, I would take away a couple things.
Okay.
And it doesn't change the story, nothing like that. But the few scenes, with Ghostface lurking in the grocery store and lurking in the woods outside Tatum's house, I would take those out. You don't need them. I think that's something that worked a lot better in the script.
Mm-hmm.
When you're reading that in the script, and it's like, oh, the killer's lurking. It's like, oh, that's scary. That raises the tension a little bit. But played out on film and given what we know who the killers end up being, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. There's no reason for that to even be there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a lot of people go back and forth with the like the bathroom scene with Ghostface in the stall. I would maybe try to make that feel like more of a prank, like that's just another student doing a prank,
right?
And then everything kind of meshes better that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only thing I would change.
Hey man, and for almost a 2-hour movie, that's pretty darn good. That's a small list, my friend, of things to change. And I will say this about the lurking thing. It never really bothered me or anything, and it still doesn't really bother me. But I will say this, that in light of Scream 3, I now, and again, I know that that wasn't the original necessarily plan for 3. I know because Matthew Lillard talked openly about the original plan for 3 and the cult of Ghostface and all him coming back and all that. But here's the thing. With the script that Aaron Kruger and Wes Craven, which I'm sure you know this, Nick, Wes Craven also had a hand. He was uncredited as a writer in 3, big time. And he had Aaron Kruger locked in a closet daily. I'm jumping a little ahead. We'll come, but writing scripts and shitting him out like the day of. Here's what we're doing, and then Wes would redline it and he would change it. He would modify it. So he was, in my opinion, Wes was just as much a writer as anybody as Aaron was. But I'm digressing. My point is, I'm trying to make is now that we have seen Scream 3 and we go back to watch Scream 1. I want your opinion on this. I like to think, and in my mind, I like to believe that was Roman at Dewey's house in the bushes and in the grocery store. It wasn't Billy or Stu. It was Roman just being present, just kind of being there to let. And again, I know this is looking back, but I like to think it like that way. That's Roman just showing us he's there, and he's making sure things go smoothly for this plan. What are your thoughts on that, man? Is that something that you would?
If you're looking back at Scream 1 through post Scream 3 eyes,
right.
Then you can retrofit all those pieces to fit and everything.
Right.
But just from the standpoint of looking at it as Scream 1, a standalone movie, Here it is. It's like, what is this? It's different, if it's a Halloween movie and it's Michael Myers in the bushes, you get that. Like, that's fine. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, just given the context of Scream and who the killers are and why they're doing what they're doing, to me, it just does not make sense.
Right. I got you,
But
man.
again, does not affect the movie. It being in there doesn't change anything. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It still works. It's still good.
Yeah, for
So.
sure. Well, and something else about Scream One before we go on, I have to bring it up. And Nick, you may be aware of this, but just in case you're not, I am the self-professed conductor of the Stu train. I am a Stu truther. I have been since day one, so it's not like a bandwagon. I've held this position all these years, and so this channel is very pro Stu Macher. This is a very much, and again, I have no problem with anyone. And I got a lot of my subscribers do not believe Stu's alive, and it's totally fine. Like, it's not a big deal. But I like to have fun with it, right? You know, I like to have a good time with it. Stu is always around. See, he's always lurking. He's always looming on the channel. So I just need to ask your opinions. I've never asked you this. And by the way, I do want to say, I don't know if you've seen my interview with Alan Robinson last month, who was Ghostface in Scream 2, and he was Matthew Lillard's stunt double in Scream 1. And he made the point to also, because I asked him too, and what do you think? You know, and he was like, well, he says, Wes never told me that Stu died. He said, whenever he approached him for that scene for the TV and stuff, he said, all he told me was, you're going to get electrocuted here. But he said, he never said you're going to die here. This is your death scene. And he said, and this is Alan's words, and it's in the video, it's in the interview. And he said, so he says, in my opinion, there's a lot of leeway there that, you know, he could have survived. And that's the guy who did the scene. But I just want to ask your opinion, and it's fun either way. Do you feel that because, you know, he was supposed to come back in 3, you know, but Matthew Lillard said that publicly. He was going to survive. He would have survived then. And do you think that he could resurface in Scream 7 or an upcoming Scream film at some point?
I do not.
Okay.
I think it's awesome that you are very pro Stu coming back. I am on the other side of the fence.
Sure.
I think Stu is dead.
Okay.
I think even without the TV, I think he was bleeding out in the kitchen.
Okay.
It's fun to speculate about. I think the character of Stu Macher is great. You know, he kind of represented a little small piece of all of us, just like all the characters in the first movie did.
Yep.
But ultimately, I feel like his story is over. Like, his arc was over.
Okay.
That's just how I personally feel about it.
Sure. All right. No, that's all right. I thought we might be on the opposite sides of the tracks, if you will, of the Stu train, but that's okay, man. Like I say, it's not a big deal.
And I think the biggest thing for the Stu, like, somebody within the universe would have heard something about him actually being alive. Like, surely Sidney Prescott would know if Stu Macher was alive or dead.
Right. Well, and I agree. Like, here's the thing. When it comes to Stu, like, there's 2 routes you could go. In my mind, there could be more, but I can think of 2. One is that he was captured. He survived. He came back to, you know, he came back and he's in prison somewhere or in a mental facility or whatever. And to me, that's a very, very difficult. That's a hard road to do if you're writing that, because you're right. The biggest problem with that is someone would know. If he was in some institution, there's going to be knowledge somewhere. Someone, Dewey would have known. Somebody would have known.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. That's the problem. But here's the thing, Nick. I'll say this. For me, the easiest way as a writer, now I'm saying, like, how would I write it? Like, how would we write this? The most practical way I can think of to get around those obstacles, which are big, is that everyone does think he's dead. There's no knowledge of him being alive. It was a faked death. It's like there's a death certificate and everything, because that answers the question why no one's talked about it. So that solves that. Now, there may be other issues that you'd have to work through as a writer with that, but at least then it takes care of the biggest obstacles, I think, which are what you brought up, and it's legitimate. Like, why did no one know? They wouldn't, and because they think he's dead. He thinks someone's deceased. There's nothing to talk about. He's gone. He's out of the picture, only to resurface in the future, and you go from there. But so if it was me writing it, like if I was asked to write this out, I would have to give it a lot of thought on some of the details. But my big picture, Nick, would be that his death was fake. His parents were wealthy. We know that by the house they were in. They had a boat. They clearly there were means. So who knows? They could have been involved in local government or politics. They could have bought corrupt people off. It's a small town. So there's all kinds of ways you could like massage some of that to show how it happened. So let me ask you, if that were to, again, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just throwing out some of my ideas. If we saw Scream 7, let's just say, and Stu is brought back, because I believe Sydney's going to be back. I'm like 98% sure she's back. And I really do. And I have reasons for that. But if that were to happen, and this is the last thing on Stu, we'll move on. If you were to see Stu back in 7, and that was kind of the angle that they went with, how would that be something that you would be open to, or be like, okay, well, depending how it's written, obviously it's got to be written well.
Oh man, for me personally, that's something that completely 100% hinges on the execution of it.
It does. I agree.
I feel like personally, if you're going to bring Stu back, I think you bring him back, but he's still dead. He's still a deceased character. Maybe, that's something you could do, the whole, cult of Stu thing. And I think it actually works better if he's still dead. If it is these group of people that just are worshiping this original sidekick.
Right.
All these people that are just, guilty of peer pressure.
Right. They came together.
That would be your best way to honor the
right
in a modern Scream movie, to honor Stu and to have him be relevant in a current movie. You got to keep him dead, but I don't know, it's doable. I just feel like up until the last 2 movies, like 5 and 6, Scream was one of the more grounded in reality horror franchises.
I'm glad you made that distinction.
But yeah, up until 5 and 6. So I feel like if you just show us that Stu's alive, it's like, is he? But I guess
I know.
Like I said, up until the last 2. Anyways.
Right. Well, fair enough. Well, that's fair enough, man. Yeah, I mean, you got Stu that was stabbed only 4 times. And then got the TV thing, which he had his hands up for, by the way. But then you've got Chad, who was stabbed 17 times in Scream 6 on both sides of the upper torso, piercing lungs, piercing organs, still survived. And then he had stabbed, what was it, 7 times in 5, 24 stabs in a year.
Crazy.
And he's kicking, buddy. He's so like, well, Radio Silence, essentially, in my mind, or maybe I should say James and Guy, not really Radio Silence, they didn't write anything. James and Guy, in my mind, they basically have made it retroactively where unless you were double tapped, you could be alive right now. They really, that's what they've done, Nick. Because if you make the argument, well, yeah, he was stabbed, but a lot of these stabs in Wes's films, they were 1 stabs. A lot of them are just once, maybe twice. We've got people, Mindy. Look at Mindy getting gutted up, and she's jumping around at the end of the movie. Like nothing's wrong. So in a way, James and Guy have opened this up for more speculation, in my opinion, because of that. So
I mean, it's very possible.
We'll see, right? We'll see. Christopher Landon, man, I'm excited about him. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so let's move on forward. We're time. Gosh, an hour is so short when we're talking Scream. Oh my gosh, it goes so fast. Let's go to Scream 2. I know you mentioned you saw that on video as well. When you saw it, what were your thoughts on 2? Did you like it? Did you love it? What'd you think?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That's what changed everything for me. That's what made me make a website. You know,
That's
because I
awesome.
knew that Scream 3 was right around the corner after 2. So Scream 2 changed everything. Like, it was such a great movie. It's a great sequel. Like, you would leave Scream 2 with that same like satisfied feeling that you had with the first one. You know, where you're just like, wow, that was awesome.
It was a good whoddunit.
Yeah, it was great. Even with all the changes that it had to go through.
That's right.
You know, it was the first victim to the infamous script leaks and
dang it. Somebody always wants to go messing stuff up, man. I don't know, always.
And I have been able to confirm with people involved the early script that is floating around, the one that has Derek and Hallie as the killers, and then Cotton is kind of a surprise killer at the very end. It's that is the original. That is the leaked draft. That's not a dummy draft. That is it. That is what it was to be.
So that's what we would have gotten. We would have gotten Haley and Derek, and then we would have gotten Cotton shooting Sydney on the stage at the end.
Yes.
And apparently both being dead.
Yeah, it would have been another like kind of cliffhanger, ambiguous ending that would have also went into Scream 3, because I know at this time they had their basic idea for Scream 3, which is honestly, it's very close to the Scream 3 we got, but also very different than the Scream 3 we got. So
the assembly cut, I thought, was obviously that doesn't apply to exactly what you're saying, but I love the assembly. Like, there were some scenes in that assembly cut, which, thank you, by the way, scream-thrillogy.com. That's what I'm talking about. I was able to be like, I swear I was one of the first 5 people to download that. When you posted that thing, dude, I was like right there. And I'm like, go. I immediately jumped in, download. And I still got it. I said, I got that sucker right now on my laptop. But I saw that. So good job on you, Nick. Applause to you for the Scream assembly cut. By the way,
I'm glad people enjoyed it.
Seriously, man. And if anyone here in the chat, if you have seen the Scream 3 assembly cut, if you know what I'm talking about, then you know. If you don't, then it's been taken down, right, Nick? I believe. Yep. Yeah, it's there. Unfortunately,
Paramount made me take it down, but I know obviously that the internet lives forever.
It does.
It's still out there. It's just you won't find it on my site.
On your site. But I want you guys to know that Nick is the one who posted that. We can thank him for that cut. Which, you know, and well, you know what? I'm going to talk about that in a second. Let's finish Scream 2, because I just want to say this on Scream 2. I want to ask you a question. How did you feel about the reveal of Debbie Salt? Because I never suspected Debbie Salt as being the mastermind of that of the movie. How did you feel when you saw her reveal?
It was shocking. I didn't see it coming. Yep. You know, obviously when Mickey alludes to the second killer coming through the door, and first, you know, Gail comes through first. I'm like, oh my God, it's Gail.
Yes.
You know, then it's not Gail, it's the person behind her. So that was I thought that was a great reveal. That was a great way to reveal that. In hindsight, you know, hindsight's 2020. Looking back, it's there and it's in front of you the entire movie.
It is.
You know, why they're going to get Laurie Metcalf, who was at the time, this is the 90s. She was a pretty big name.
That's right.
You're not going to get Laurie Metcalf just to play a reporter that just keeps annoyingly popping up.
Exactly.
So it's there. You know, just look at the clues. It's there. But
that's right.
Yeah, having her, revealing her as the killer, and she's Billy's mom, and you know, it's very Friday the 13th-ish. It's a great nod. I know Kevin Williamson was a huge fan of Friday the 13th, so
yes,
it was a great nod to it. And you know, even in his first draft, you know, she was the killer, she was the mastermind. You know, but instead of having Mickey, you know, she had Derek, Hallie. So,
oh yeah, I feel the same way. 100% with you on this one. I think she was fantastic, and she's got those, I call them the crazy eyes. She was so amazing how she acted. And, you know, she was over the top in a good way. Like, she was literally unhinged, man. And you know what makes me sick? I'm like, dude, it was the eyes and the intensity was amazing.
I feel like that's what Dermot Mulroney was trying to do
Oh
in
Lord,
Scream 6, but not
bless his
quite.
heart.
But
Bless his heart. He
what's funny,
tried.
what's funny about Laurie Metcalf and 2 is that, and I don't know if you've talked to Nate Reagan about this.
We
But,
talk quite often, but I
yeah,
don't
when
know.
him and Anthony Mackie were interviewing her for the
Uh-huh.
documentary, she
Mhm.
was completely like, I think she was kind of embarrassed of her
Yes,
performance in that movie and
that's
had
right.
no idea that there was this legion of fans that just loved Miss Loomis and Debbie
That's
Salt. And
exactly. That's
so
so true, man.
pretty
Yeah,
cool.
Nate, we did chat about that and how she felt like, she was embarrassed. Like she felt like she overdid it or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like, no, it was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah, no,
And
she towed the line like perfect. And I
mhm,
think it's one of those things we might not even appreciated it back in '97. But
it's
it's
true.
just it's looking back now, you're like, wow, like these Scream movies were hitting on all cylinders back then.
I know. I know, man. And a lot of times it does take a little perspective to appreciate some things in a different light. Like, oh wow, this was actually pretty dang epic. Like what she did, and it's phenomenal. One of my favorites. I thought she did awesome. And even though she may have only killed Randy, we know that she confessed to doing that. I got a little knife happy. I assume most everyone else was Mickey, but it doesn't matter because she was amazing in her role and obviously the mastermind and the manipulator and in control of everything.
Yeah, and I kind of wish that she wouldn't have confessed to killing Randy
Mm,
because then it's almost scarier if she's just completely using Mickey for the entire killing spree.
right.
She's just, pulling the strings on it. Because that says two things. One, she's crazy. And two, like, he's more crazy than she is because he's willing to do absolutely anything. It's the only killer, well, again, up until recently, who had no connection to Woodsboro whatsoever. He had
That's
no
right.
no dog in this fight.
Nope.
He
That's
was
right.
just he wanted to do it. He wanted to blame the movies. He wanted to take it to trial. Mickey's one of my
Yeah.
favorite killers, and I can go on and on about about Mickey.
Oh, he was great, dude. Seriously. Totally. Yeah. He was already killing people. He was an active serial killer. I wonder how many victims there were of him that he had already done before, he met Mrs. Loomis.
Yeah, I would
'Cause
assume it's not many, but I'm sure he's got a body count. But it's
yeah, that would be interesting. We've talked a lot here on the channel about what if we got a Mickey Altieri prequel. I don't know. It could be interesting. I don't know, right? He was young there, so like you say, it probably didn't have a ton of victims, but it
yeah,
would be,
hell yeah. I don't know if I would watch it as a movie or a series, but like as a
mhm,
graphic novel, sure. If somebody wants to do the Mickey prequel story, go for it.
yeah. So that was Scream 2, an amazing sequel. It was one of the best direct sequels I think of any horror film franchise you can name. It was so strong, so strong. It didn't drop off. It was great. And then we get to one that for all throughout the years was so frustrating me how people would beat up on this movie. And everyone, and I have no problem with, everyone's entitled to your own opinion. I have no problem. I'll respect you as long as you respect mine. I have no issue. But it still bothered me because I loved this little gem that is called Scream 3. And I loved the Maureen Prescott backstory. And honestly, I wish we would have had Stu I wish we would have gotten him as the cult leader. As we know, the Columbine thing happened, a tragedy, and they had to in Wes and the Weinstein said, no, we can't do this. We got to scrap that. But the movie that we have, I do enjoy the Maureen Prescott story. And of course, Lynn, who I've come to be real good friends with Lynn McCree. She's a sweetheart
Oh yeah,
and just phenomenal. Um, and I love Roman. I think the Roman backstory is interesting to know that he instigated or kind of set up the original. Uh, I liked it personally. I never had any issue with it. And I love the voice changer. The voice changer people would beat up on. That's not realistic. And of course, you know, you probably know this, Nick, excuse me. But JP, JP
Jones.
his last, thank you. JP Jones told a story about Wes coming to him and saying, look, you guys need to show me this, create something that's going to show me this could work. Because Wes was he wanted things to be reality, you know, very, very realistic. Yeah. And so JP tells the story of how he went with his team, and he says they were able to come up with a little board. You know, I have not computer guy as far as techie stuff, but basically like a little board, and that they recorded like 5 different voices on the board. They took it to Wes and said, well, here you go. Showed it to him. And basically Wes said, okay, then let's go ahead and do this. So there was at least some primitive form of that voice collection data that's in the movie. And I thought that was real interesting. I'd never heard that. Thank you, Nate Reagan and Anthony Massey, for that. Otherwise, I'd never heard it all these years. But my point is, I love that. I love the movie. And what are your thoughts on Scream 3, man, now?
Oh, man, I have a lot of thoughts. Let's see. That's it's the first one I saw in theaters. Opening night. I loved it. I absolutely loved Scream 3.
Awesome.
But I've had a love-hate-like relationship with Scream 3.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't know if I was just enamored with the fact that we had a new Scream movie, and you know, obviously, once you get shiny new things in front of you, you know, it has a tendency to distract you from what it really is.
Yeah, true.
But I think, like you said, I thought the voice changer was awesome. I thought the Hollywood setting was awesome. I thought, you know, Sidney's long lost half brother being the ultimate mastermind was awesome.
Yeah.
Thought all this stuff. And then I thought it all was awesome until I didn't.
Oh, no. Okay.
Until I really started thinking about it and looking back, and I'm like, because again, at the time, there's no Scream 4, there's no Scream 5, there's no Scream 6. It's Scream 3. It is the concluding chapter in the Scream trilogy.
That's it.
And then I started thinking, I'm like, this is not the ending I wanted. Like, this isn't it. I still, and this is the only thing that I absolutely hate about the movie to this day. Okay. I hate the reveal that it's Sidney's long lost half brother as the killer.
Okay.
I hate the sibling cop out. I hated it in Scream, and I hated it in Halloween. It always just it's always just used as a device to look back and make things work. So, but I mean, for some people this works. They like that. You know, they like that it was in Star Wars and Halloween, and then Scream did it. Some people like that. That's cool. That's awesome. It's awesome that you like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's okay. Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about it. That's right.
And I find it very interesting that since Scream 4, 5, and 6, now granted, they're finally mentioning Roman. You know, he was not mentioned in 4 or 5.
Right.
But he still has not been mentioned as Sidney's brother. Which I had a theory about that maybe they were going to reveal, because I know Kevin Williamson hated that. He hated that sibling reveal. And now that he is actively involved in the movies again, I would not be surprised if he tries to retcon that somehow. That maybe it's revealed that Roman actually wasn't related to her. He thought he was obsessed with her. Which I feel like that angle almost makes Roman scarier.
Yeah, like a total, like insane, like even beyond. Yeah.
Yep. And but yeah, it's and also whenever you're ready to hear it.
On Scream 3?
Yes, I will speak my truth and tell everybody what I know about the original Scream 3.
Okay, because I do know there was stuff going around social media about there was the first draft of Scream 3 didn't have. I know I saw that I didn't read all of it. I saw, and this may be tied into what you're going to say, but I saw something that said there was a first draft where it did not have Stu as the mastermind from prison. But when I saw that, it was saying it was like the first draft. And I'm like, okay, well, it's a lot of drafts can happen. You can go through 10, 12 drafts of a script. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah, tell me, go ahead and share with us what information you have.
From what I have learned, because for years, I've been trying to get to the bottom of this. Like, where did these Stu rumors come from? Where did all this stuff? Yeah. I wanted to trace it all back to the start. So I was speaking with Richard Potter, who's been involved in several of the Scream movies. And he did finally confirm with me. And again, you can believe what you want to believe.
Sure.
You can believe your side of history. Doesn't matter. He told me firsthand that Stu was never, ever discussed in coming back. And like, that's just his, it's him, Wes Craven, and Kevin Williamson in a room putting this together. But
interesting.
But ultimately, the Stu rumors, the Matthew Lillard Scream 3 rumors, I was able to trace back basically to Matthew Lillard himself.
Yeah, I've got a clip of him right here of him talking about it. Yeah.
I traced this back to 1997.
Okay.
He did a movie called Dead Man's Curve. And at the wrap party for that, because he had actually just a couple months prior had his cameo appearance in Scream 2. He was dating Neve Campbell, just happened to be on set. They threw him in the background. Somebody joked with him that knew that he was in the background of Scream 2, and they joked with him, and they said, are you going to show up in Scream 3? And he this is where it all starts. he says, oh yeah. He goes, I'm playing Stu's twin brother. I'm coming back. And that's kind of that's the genesis of Stu returning. That's where it started.
That sounds like a joke, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
He was kidding around. Yeah,
he's joking. He wasn't being serious.
Right.
But again, this is 97. The internet ran with it. So all these Stu returning rumors came out and all this stuff. And again, I don't want this to come across to me like bashing Matthew Lillard. I love Matthew Lillard. I think he's great. Stu's one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Even other films that, Matthew's done, they're awesome. He's a great actor.
They are. He's awesome.
But I feel like he's misremembering a little bit when he tells these stories about how he was contracted for Scream 3 because and again, this is just what I have been told from people involved, that he was not contacted or contracted. Then people say, oh, well, he was paid for Scream 3. Yeah, he was. His voice was used in Scream 3. He got a check for that.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, again, I love Matthew Lillard. I don't mean to talk down on it, but I think history has skewed what actually was supposed to happen.
Interesting.
Because, again, I know Williamson had 3 plans for Scream 3. There was the Sydney version, the no Sydney version, and then a version yet to be decided. And I do know that Kevin wanted to shift focus to Gale Weathers to be the star.
Yep.
Scream 3 wanted to revolve around this world that she has created by writing the Woodsboro Murders, which became the Stab series. Like, Gale created, and it wasn't necessarily a cult. It was basically just obsessed stab fans. It's kind of what she created, and those were the original killers for Scream 3. So it wasn't necessarily a cult. I guess you could call it a cult. It wasn't a Stu cult. It did take place. It either took place back in Woodsboro or it was on the set of Stab 2, which just happened to be Woodsboro set pieces that the same thing we see in Scream 3. But I do know the finale was supposed to be in Stu's kitchen, just like the first movie, and then obviously Scream 5. But but yeah, that was supposed to be its full circle moment, and I don't know, would have been cool. Obviously, what we got was different, and I see people in the chat talking about, yes, Matthew did tell everybody that he was coming back, but
yeah. Have you seen the clip, Nick?
I have.
Have you from that Nate and Anthony put together?
Yes, I've seen the clip.
Yeah, because he actually comes right out and says, "I was paid to come back as the killer," and he. I mean, I got the clip loaded. I could show it if you, but
Oh yeah, no, I'm very familiar with the clip.
yeah,
I
he was
I
very specific
I
in
don't know.
that.
From what I know,
Yeah.
it's inaccurate.
Interesting. We got us a little what do they call it? A little drama in the Scream world, I guess you could say. Oh, fair
And
enough.
again, like obviously, I'm not an expert. I wasn't in the
Right.
room,
Right,
but I've
exactly.
talked to people who were in the rooms. You know,
Sure.
I've been privy to a lot of information, and
Right.
and
So I guess
sometimes,
it comes down to who do you believe, right? At the end of the day.
yeah, I'm saying,
Like,
yeah, you don't have to believe me. I'm just saying,
no, I know, but I'm
yeah,
just saying, like, even the people that even, like what's his name? Richard, right? So it's like, you got Matthew Lillard being real explicit that he was the killer and all this, and Columbine and all this, and they had to scrap it. And then you have a contradicting statement. So, we know that they can't both be true, but I guess everyone has to decide for themselves what they think. I guess. I mean, it's
yeah.
up to you guys. I mean, um, you know, I like I say, me personally, when I hear Matthew say that, it's like I just can't believe he's making that up, man. Because you wouldn't, if you wouldn't forget that you were hired to be the killer. I mean, that's pretty explicit. So, I mean, look, again, I don't know. I wasn't there either. To your point, Nick, neither I wasn't there either. So, but for Matthew to make those claims, blatantly lying, that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people that could that could call him out on that.
And see, and that's the thing.
I
And
don't
I
know.
know
It's just weird.
behind closed doors, people have. I know
Yeah.
this for a fact. Uh,
Mm,
but uh, but I don't think
interesting.
he's lying. I don't think he's. I think he's misremembering history. And you got
I
to think,
see.
Matthew is a much busier person than you and I am.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, much busier. Does a lot more than me and you.
That's true.
He's done many movies. He's been parts of many productions. He's auditioned for 10 times more movies than he starred in. He's, all these things are happening. And I think, and it's not just Matthew Lillard. This is a lot of actors and actresses and people in
Hmm.
Hollywood. You kind of misremember history a little bit. And I think because of his off the cuff comment about appearing in Scream 3, his own twin brother, I think that and then the internet running wild with that, with him returning, that gets said so many times, kind of like that Richard
Yeah.
Gere Gerbil story. You
Right.
have to start believing it, and you have to, and it becomes its own reality.
Right.
But
It's
at the end of
true.
the day, I think obviously it's okay to be a Stu truther.
Oh
There's
yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
No,
It's
not at
okay
all.
to be a Stu denier. That's
That's
fine
right.
too. That's the
That's
beauty
right.
of this. And
It is the beauty of it, Nick. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's a part of the community that we're all in that Scream fandom community together, brothers and sisters. And I hope you guys see like tonight the way Nick and I are engaging one another very respectfully. That's the way this is supposed to be. When you go onto some threads like Reddit, which I just don't go to Reddit because it's so toxic. But if people there cannot seemingly have a respectful adult conversation, it's like if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, and you're not a fan or whatever. It's just ridiculous. And you know what? That's not, guys. That's not how we are supposed to be. These are opinions on about a movie, about a characters, and it doesn't have to be Stu. It could be anything. At all with the movies. Point of it is, there's no reason we can't engage each other in a friendly, respectful manner. And at the end of the day, if like for Nick, if he's not on the Stu train, I don't really care. That doesn't change my relationship. I still like Nick. I still consider Nick a friend now. We've met, and I'm going to invite him back on the channel again. So I mean, I'm saying like that's at the end of the day, it shouldn't change how we look at each other and respect each other.
absolutely.
Yeah. And not at all. William says, I want to see the clip. Well, I'll tell you what, real quick. It's a short clip. It's only like 40 seconds. So because I guess just to be fair, there's people here who haven't probably seen it. So let's play it real quick. Yeah, real quick, guys. Just so you know what Nick and I have been talking about. Here's the clip, and then we're going to move on because we are up. We're actually really kind of out of time. Let me play this real quick. We'll come back, and then we'll kind of test the waters and see if Nick can go any longer, and if he can't, that's fine because he committed to an hour. But here it is, guys, real quick.
Well, I have an incredible piece of trivia, which probably nobody really knows. That Scream 3 was in pre-production, and I had actually been hired to come back in Scream 3 as the killer. And then when Columbine broke out, they scratched the entire script. They scrapped it. Because it had something to do with high school and taking over kids and making them do terrible things. And the producers were like, Wes was like, we have to, Bob was, we can't go this way. And so I actually was paid to be in Scream 3 and never had a chance to fulfill it.
Yeah, so that was that. For those who hadn't seen it, that was a clip we've been talking about the last few minutes. But we'll leave it there. We'll see. We'll leave it there. But that was the first trilogy there for Scream 1 and 3. In fact, hey, speaking of Nate Reagan, Nate, your ears must have been burning, my friend. Just chatting about you, my friend, and played that clip. So I think Scream 3 plays better today than it did in 2000 when it was the final act. Scream 3 has aged better now that it's not the final chapter. Nick, I think you would agree with that, wouldn't you?
Which is what brings me back to what I was saying, how I said I had a love, hate, like relationship.
Yeah.
Now I like it because it's not the final chapter. It's not the concluding chapter in the Scream trilogy.
There you go. That's all right. It makes a lot of sense.
So now I like it.
I'm glad. That's awesome, Nate. I think you're very valid point, Nate. Good to see you here, man. Good to see you here, buddy. Glad you could stop in and hang out with us for a little bit. So Nick, listen, man, if you need to head out, we can start to wrap up. I want to be respectful of your time.
Oh no, we can keep going.
Are you sure we're good to keep going? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
We're halfway through the series right now.
I know, it's like, oh gosh, would be part 1 and bring you back next week for part 2. All right, so let's do this. Let's move on now to, and by the way, Lighting Ghost, you know what? Let's do this. Let me go ahead and do Lighting Ghost super chat, just in case. I don't know how long he can stay. So Lighting Ghost, we'll go ahead and jump. We're going to jump to your question, and then Nick and I are going to jump back. So Nick, I would say let's give your high level answer here, and then we'll jump into Scream 4. But Lighting Ghost with a $2 super chat supporting the channel. I appreciate it, man. Says Nick, what do you want to see in Scream 7? It's a great question.
It is a good question. What do I want to see in it? I don't want anything crazy. That's what I don't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need exotic locations anymore. We've done it. That box is checked.
Okay.
As some people complain, I'd like to see it kind of maybe return either back to Woodsboro or back to a small town similar to Woodsboro.
Okay.
I want to see a good story. I want a scary Scream movie. I think Scream 6 kind of got a little wonky in places, where I think there were moments where it kind of felt like it forgot what it was. But I'd like to see 7 return to the roots a little bit, especially if this is the final chapter of the Sam Carpenter trilogy.
Right.
Because obviously this has to come back and connect to Scream 5 somehow. So I'm just curious how all of that can play out. And I don't know. I want to see a good Scream movie. That's what I want to see.
Absolutely. To me, that kind of covers so much stuff, because if you have a well-written story, you're not going to have craziness. Like I'm talking about the craziness, like it doesn't make sense kind of craziness. And a good, I've said the same thing, man. I want to see a really good whodunit, strong written whodunit murder mystery story like we used to see. Scream 1, Scream 2, even Scream 3 and 4. I mean, honestly, they were all, and we're going to get to 4, which, by the way, I mentioned earlier is my favorite sequel to this day. So I'm excited to talk about that. But Lightning Ghost, thank you for your super chat, my friend. That's much appreciated. Great question. And yeah, man, we'll any super chats that come in, you will move to the front of the line. Just a reminder. But let's get into Scream 4 now, Nick. So, we jump, 10 years later, 11 years later. And to as we talked about off backstage, what I call the most under-marketed Scream film in history, which killed the success of that film. I'm telling you, I will never change my mind on that. And Nick, you and I agree on that. We agree on that.
I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me your experience with 4. I'm assuming theater, right?
Yes.
In the theater.
But my experience with 4 starts obviously well before the movie came out. Because this was my first real taste of being kind of involved in the process of a Scream movie. And this is kind of where you step out from being a fan and now you're kind of part of it. But you're also still a fan. But yeah, this is the one that I was contacted by Dimension to run the poll, a couple years go by, whatever. And then I believe it was a leaked email from Kevin Williamson's agency. There was like a leaked screenshot back in like 2008. And it was basically announcing that he was contracted to write Scream 4, 5, and 6. And this wasn't a term back then, but it broke the internet. Because, like Scream was a dead, dormant franchise. And all of a sudden, this leaked email. It's like, what? Kevin Williamson's back? He's writing 3 of them?
Wow.
So that's how that started. And Scream 4 was... Obviously, social media had been around, since the 2000s and stuff. And but this was the first Scream movie where the cast and crew are on set, and they have a device where they can post pictures and do stuff from the set. And that kind of, I don't know if you remember, but that kind of, well, no, you said you didn't know it was really coming out until it came out.
I did not. Nope.
Yeah. Well, there was a very small circle, I guess, that if you were following these people on Twitter, before the world knew what Twitter was, you were seeing, Anthony Anderson spoiled his death scene. He posted a selfie of himself with his with a forehead gash and all this stuff. And
dude,
so yeah, it was a weird time, especially for how much secrecy is involved in a Scream movie.
Oh yeah.
And then, obviously, but no Scream movie had been made in the age of social media and smartphones. And so that kind of changed things. So it was the first time we got to, as fans sitting at home, you got to basically watch a Scream movie get made just by following all these actors and actresses. And you don't even get that now. Like, you follow these people now, like making Scream 5 and 6, you were lucky to get a picture of anything.
That's right.
So yeah, this was, and I always say this, that Scream 4 is a vibe. Like, it is a self-contained little piece of the franchise.
Yeah.
You're either here for it or you're not.
Yeah.
Because, it's, like I always say, there's 2 trilogies. There will be. There's 1 through 3, 5 through 6, or 5 through 7. But 4, I always see as that bridge between the 2.
Yeah,
because 4 it's a safe sequel. It's the main trio lives; they all live through it. There's nothing that happens in 4 affects the legacy of 1 through 3.
No, it's right.
It's a very safe sequel, but it's fun, and
it is.
It offered like a motive for a killer that we had not ever seen this in a movie like this before.
Nope.
And it's like, I'll argue with people to ad nauseum about this, that it's arguably one of the most believable motives in the entire series.
It is, seriously.
especially in the age of social media and, you know,
Bro,
all the fake stuff you see online.
gosh.
This is where Jill's head is at. That she is so obsessed
Mhm.
and jealous of something that happened to her cousin 15 years ago.
Yeah,
And she wants
yeah.
that so bad
So bad.
that this is what she's willing to do for it. And it's amazing. And gosh, I wish that like Bob Weinstein wouldn't have pulled the plug on the cliffhanger ending with Jill surviving and, you know, her getting the
Right.
word last minute that Sydney's alive. Like, it's a huge what if. Obviously, if that happens, we don't get the Scream 5 and 6 we have. We have a different Scream 5 and 6. You know, the
Mhm.
radio silence movies might not ever happen.
That's true, man. That's very true. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, I think backstage, you know, if and I'm going to say this again, and it's not a cop out. I really believe this, guys. If Dimension and Miramax had funded the right amount of money to market that film properly, we would have gotten, well, first of all, it would not have made, you know, 80, 90 million, whatever it was. It would have made, I guarantee you, 150 at least. And it would have been right there. We would have gotten a new Wes Craven trilogy. We would have 6 Wes Craven Scream movies to celebrate and to talk about right now instead of just 4. Thankful for the 4, big time, but we could have had 2 more, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
It's so frustrating still.
Yeah, and I think also, just speaking of Scream 4, and I think it's a lot of things that you notice when you go back and rewatch the movie, you know, obviously through hindsight and, you know, through different eyes, you watch these movies, and it's funny how Scream 4 really does emulate Scream 1 in so many ways, but it's obvious. Like, and that's part of it, you know, because like Jill
Right.
and Charlie are trying to emulate Scream 1. So it's just funny, even just listening to like the Ghostface calls and stuff with other cast members. It's this Ghostface, you know, especially like Charlie or Jill on the phone, they're angry and they're aggressive. Because I
Very.
think that's what they think Ghostface is supposed to be like. You know, they've
Yes.
watched the Stab movies and that's how Ghostface, so it's like they think that's how they're supposed to be. So they're doing this. And it's, I don't know, I really like it. And I said
Yeah.
something on Twitter the other day where Sydney's phone calls with Ghostface in Scream 4 are some of the best of the series. And I think it's mostly because it's Ghostface telling her that this isn't about you, but you will be witness to it. And that's one of
That's
the
right.
best ways, you know, to do a legacy sequel like that, when you bring in the old cast with a new cast, is basically telling them that, like, this isn't about you, but you're going to watch this happen.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
That is awesome.
And then obviously their fatal flaw obviously was involving Sydney.
That's right.
Had they just kept Sydney, let her leave instead of keeping her in Woodsboro, their chances of success are way higher.
Way higher, man. Seriously.
Same with Scream 5. You know, you don't kill Dewey, or you still kill Dewey, but the fact that you lured Gail and Sydney back to Woodsboro, there's your fatal flaw.
That's right. You're kind of like going into the pit of the lions, even though they're not lions, but you know what I mean, to get the analogy, and thinking, you know, rather than just staying outside the cage, you know, stay out there where it's safe. But that's so true. And I'll tell you something else. Scream 4, for me, the Jill reveal blew me away. It was one of my favorite reveals of the whole franchise. When she pulls that mask off, I'm like, oh my gosh, my mind was blown personally, and I still love it. And Jill, man, talking about insanity. This was the first time, other than now, Billy and Stu, you could say is close, but not really. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by this. She was perhaps, I believe, the most brutal Ghostface we've perhaps ever seen. And I'm going to say that because she self-mute. I got to be careful with YouTube. She did things to herself And the knife in the shoulder, the coffee table, the pulling of the hair, the scratching, dude, she was absolutely nuts. And Billy and Stu did similar, but they did it to each other.
Yeah.
They didn't do it to themselves, and that's why it's different. So for me, we've never seen a ghost face before or after yet that has done that level of just, I don't want to say commitment. It's just insanity of depravity.
No, she's 100% committed. And
100%.
they even say it in the movie, like, why do you do a remake? To outdo the original.
Yes.
So like
right.
if Billy and Stu are doing this to each other, she's planning on being a soul survivor. So she's got to do this to herself.
Soul survivor. That's right.
Speaking of that ending, though, I did mention this on Twitter lately. A missed opportunity in Scream 4 that I felt like would have been phenomenal. I think I talked to Nate Reagan about this. I said, how awesome would it have been after Jill's whole mutilation scene, as she's stumbling over to Sydney right before she drops, if Charlie popped back up still alive, and Jill had to like pull her shit together and kill him again before she finally, like, how awesome would that have been? Like,
that would have been great.
It's almost like it's her moment that, like, if you really want to be Sydney, here you go. This is what you got to do.
Yeah, I love that.
It's just, I don't know, it felt like a missed opportunity not having that final scare.
That's
a good spot it would have fit in.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I never thought of that. Where Charlie go over there, you think he's dead, he just pops back up.
Yeah, like Mickey style from Scream 2.
Right.
How he just throws his body up and he's all, just something like that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, I would have. My buddy Eric over at the Bearded Entertainment. What's up, Eric? I know Marcus would love that. Yeah, Marcus is one of our friends, another great content creator. He's on the Charlie truck. He believes that Charlie is alive still from Scream 4. And he's got several videos, man. I mean, he is like passionate. He's mapped out all kinds of theories, but
man, there's too many alive people. Scream 7's got to start killing people.
Right?
People have to die.
Seriously, bro. Especially after Scream 6, where everybody lives. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? The core 4, nobody dies. Gail lives. Kirby lives. Danny lives. I'm like, what? What is going on? So, yeah, we're absolutely. So, lots to say about Scream 6 and 5. And last thing I'll say about 4 is that I think if you look at the motive for Jill, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I believe that movie holds up so well, and that if they were to have made that and dropped it this year, everyone at this younger audience that we're living in today, it would have connected still. The streaming, right? Got to be streaming online. We're going to make the movie. I don't need friends. I need fans. That whole thing. Dude, that motive is as applicable in 2023 as it was in 2011. And it's like way ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah. Scream 4 was light years ahead of its time. And that's credit to Kevin Williamson, who... like a lot of these newer fans and younger people, they don't quite realize that Kevin Williamson in the 90s and early 2000s, that man had his finger on the pulse of pop culture.
That's right.
Like he almost dictated what happened in pop culture. Like he knew what was going, he knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And yeah, when he wrote Scream 4, he knew exactly what he was doing. He saw things before everybody else did.
Incredible, man. And I love it. It's my favorite sequel. And at the very end of this stream, guys, whenever we wrap up, I'm going to ask Nick, I'll give you a heads up. I'm going to ask you to rank your Scream films as of today, which they can always change. I always say that. But we'll do that at the very, very end. It's the last thing. All right. So now Scream goes dormant because the Weinsteins don't properly market it. I'm going to say it again. And we did not get the trilogy that was intended for Kevin and Wes. And we get nothing for a very long time, almost, 10 years? Basically 11 years, I guess. 2022, well, let's back up. 2021, we get the announcement that Spyglass, Paramount, whoever, I don't know. I think it's Spyglass and Lantern at the time, acquired the IP of Scream, the Scream IP, and the TV series, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got it all. They bought it all. We don't know how much, but they did. And guess what? There's going to be a new Scream movie, and it's going to be directed by the young. And now they're not necessarily young in age, like in their 20s, but they're young in terms of having a lot of experience. Directors, Radio Silence. Outside of Ready or Not, they really hadn't had a major studio picture.
Yeah.
They had smaller projects and VHS and Southbound and what have you, but really this was their first step into the big chair. And I got to tell you, Nick, I want to ask you your thoughts. When I heard the news, it was actually, believe it or not, it was not excitement. It was not excitement. It was nervousness. It was a little bit of fear, nervousness, and then a part of me, because Wes Craven's my favorite filmmaker. Obviously, you see my channel name. So even outside of Scream, he's my favorite filmmaker. A part of me was like, how dare you? How dare you touch this Wes Craven these films? But then that was a small part. But then it turned more into like, it's going to happen. You got to deal with it. Then I was nervous to death. I liked Ready or Not. Okay, I did like Ready or Not, which I'm like, okay, this is good. But it was not excitement. It was nervousness. I'm like, don't mess this up. They could literally destroy this film if it's not done right. What were your feelings before you ever saw it when you heard the news? Do you remember?
Well, it was a little bit before it was announced. I started getting some emails from people associated just saying, hey, there's rumblings of there's wheels turning on a new Scream movie, which we knew it was coming because the IP sold.
Yep.
Miramax had that huge fire sale and all that. So I knew something was coming. And obviously having a Scream website, I'm going to get on board. I'm going to roll with this. Kind of like you said, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. You're either on board or you're not. Unfortunately, I do know some people that never got on board with the new movies, and to them, still Scream is only a 4-movie franchise, and some people it's still a 3-movie franchise. It's like that's how deep it goes with some people.
Yeah.
And but no, I got on board, followed, obviously tracked the production of Scream 5, posted about it. My website is. If anybody ever wants to go back into my website, I have a vast archive tracking the productions of Scream 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
And it's all still there. It's all still online.
Oh, yes. And by the way, guys, let's get that website up. If one of my moderators, I know you've been posting it all throughout the night, but if you could put a link in the chat again, that would be amazing. I want everyone to go there after the stream and go explore there. Check out the archives. But go ahead, Nick.
So I just was on board with it. I tracked the production. I posted things. I think because of my position, I've been privy to a lot of information that, the public is not. And again, I'm not going to take advantage of things that I learn and know. I don't immediately run and post about it. Sometimes I'll let somebody else break the news first, just because I don't want to break that trust with my contacts that I have.
That's right.
And so, it is frustrating having to sit on news a lot of times, but
yes, indeed.
But it's one of those things, where like I learned that Dewey died like well before the movie came out. Like I was told this, and I was like, oh man. But again, and it's especially when you're in, and I'm sure it happens to you now too, because you're doing your interviews and your shows, and you kind of start watching these movies through different lenses now. You're not just a fan watching these movies.
No, it's
you're partially watching it like almost as a filmmaker, as somebody who's part of the crew.
Yep.
So it's a different experience now.
It sure is. You're right.
And and it was like that with 5. It was like that again with 6. I've already gotten some emails regarding 7. It's
oh man, here we go.
Those I cannot talk about.
and understood. Oh man, but but that's cool too, though, man. I mean, it's like you say, it is a different thing as you begin to, gain. I guess the word is credibility. As you begin to gain, I mean, it may not be the perfect word for it, but as you begin to gain some credibility within the community, you do tend to have more opportunities to learn information. I guess you could say it's the best way to say it. And sometimes it is hard because the instinct in you, you're like you're so excited. It's like I really want to share this,
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to wait. But it's a cool place to be, though, man. It's something that I know that you and I don't take for granted at all. So Scream 5 then comes out. It's in January. I'm back in my brain. January 2022. Yep, last year. And tell me, after you walk out of the theater, your first viewing of it, what was in your head? What was processing?
A lot of things were processing. My first initial thoughts after leaving the theater, Scream 5, I remember thinking like, wow, I really liked that. Like that was a good Scream movie.
Mm-hmm.
And because it did what everybody wants to do. They dialed things back. They went back to the basics.
Yep.
You're back, even though I want to say, oh, they're back in Woodsboro, but Scream 4 was in Woodsboro. So it's like they're back again. Obviously they take some liberties with some things, or we're learning some things that we didn't know with the original movies, but now is canon. That
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Billy cheated on Sydney and had an illegitimate child with someone else, and this is all about his daughter.
That's it.
But it's just one of those things, like change is going to happen.
Yeah.
Progress is going to happen. You can't stop it. You can't go home again. You just get on board. Like you're either on board or you're not. If you want your franchise to stop at Scream 4, that's fine.
Sure.
These other movies still exist. But
they're still there. You don't have to watch them, but they're out there. Let's see, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt your thought. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I liked it. My final opinion on it hasn't really wavered any. That I think it's a middle of the pack movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did a good job. Like these people that aren't involved in making Scream movies made a Scream movie.
Right.
And I think for the most part, it fits pretty well into the series. They brought Red Right Hand back. They did all that, which Scream 4 didn't have.
It's true.
That's brought back. My nitpicks with it are very, very minuscule, and it's a lot of it's the same nitpicks that like Nate Reagan has, because me and him, we discuss these movies all the time. He's a real close friend of mine. Just little things, like the costume's different. Ghostface's costume is different in Scream 5 and 6 than it is in the rest of the movies. Those are little nitpicks. It doesn't change the movie. It doesn't change. Just little things like that. Nothing huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say.
Yeah.
I think we all knew that Skeet Ulrich was going to appear in Scream 5 somehow.
I actually, yes, because of that darn leaked image on social media. Do you remember this it was a picture of him in this room, and there was an image where Melissa or someone who was there with the same painting, and they were like, oh boy, Skeet's going to have some role. And that's how I found out.
Yeah, it was something like that. And I think Marley Shelton had posted a photo and tagged Skeet Ulrich in it.
Yeah.
Raised some eyebrows. So I think we knew that Skeet was involved in Scream 5 in some capacity.
Somehow, yeah.
But when the scene came up, when Sam's in the hospital and she looks up and Billy's standing behind her, I think everybody in the theaters, you could hear their jaw hit the floor. Like what just happened?
Right. And you know what else is great about that? And I hated the trailer for Scream 5. I think they blew the trailer. They revealed Richie and Amber as killers in the trailer. It was terrible. But the only thing in the trailer I liked was they faked us out there, because you remember in that scene in the hospital when she's at the sink and she looks up in the trailer, it's Ghostface behind her. And so when that scene is happening, I'm like, here comes Ghostface behind you. And it was Billy Loomis.
So, I mean, technically, it wasn't wrong.
Technically, you're right. But it was just so cool that they showed this thing, and you're expecting that. And that's how they do Billy. But you know what my biggest issue with Billy? I love Billy being back. I have never complained about it at all. I think it's great. But the only thing I think that would have made the Billy reveal stronger to me is if you would have seen Sam talking to herself, but you don't hear a voice and you don't see the person. You're building up to it. They revealed Billy so early.
They did.
So early, Nick. And I'm like, if they would have done that, where you see her obviously having issues, where she's like looking in the mirror and talking, and she's driving and she's talking out loud like there's someone behind in the car, but you don't see them or hear them. And then when we get to the third act at Stu's house and Sam goes into there, we finally see and we hear Billy Loomis. Then the reveal is made that that's who she was talking to. I just thought that would have been a cool way to build that suspense up a little bit.
Yeah, that would have been a really good way to do that.
Yeah.
I think one thing they tried to establish, though, is that this is, and I think waiting to reveal him in the finale would have felt more like the ghost of Billy in Stu's house. Mm-hmm. So I think they tried to establish early on that, like, this is not a ghost. This is a hallucination.
Right. That's right.
This is what Sam knows of her dad. This is not the ghost of Billy Loomis, which I think had the reveal waited for the finale, it would have felt more like a ghost presence.
Right.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's
so I think it's calculated on why they revealed it when they did, to establish that this is Sam's own psychosis. And
yeah, that's a good point, man. It's just, I don't know. I wish there was, maybe move it to the middle of the movie. I don't know. I don't know. It's so early.
I do want to back up just a minute, because we were talking about, I'm going to go back to Scream 4 for just a minute.
Sure.
I think it's partial marketing, which is what hurt it. And again, this is one of those things, it's hard to explain this to younger fans, but it was still suffering the Scary Movie hangover.
Oh gosh.
And don't get me wrong, I love Scary Movie. I think it's a fantastic parody. It's probably one of the better parodies of all time. But being released so close after Scream 3, it tainted like the Ghostface image. And this is a true story. When I was in the theaters watching Scream 4, I vividly remember hearing there were some kids, I think they were either next to me or down below me, but I remember hearing them say this out loud. They said, how come the killer's not funny in this one?
Oh my gosh.
And I remember thinking, like, they think this is the Scary Movie. Like, they don't know it's a Scream. Like,
actual, right. Dang.
So as great as Scary Movie is, it hurt the Scream franchise for a little bit. And I think Scream 4, despite, being 11 years after Scream 3, it's still that our last image of Ghostface was Scary Movie. Like, that
unfortunately, it was. And Doofy, I'm like,
And David Arquette he gets called Doofy to this day at conventions.
Gosh,
and by fans. And I think it kind of angers him a little bit, because he's like, I'm not Doofy.
Exactly. That's another guy. Another movie. Oh, that's a good point, though, man. The Scary Movie that actually I never really thought of it like that, but that's a valid point you're making. I think
And
that's
then, you know, obviously
yeah.
Scream 4 didn't do itself any favors by having the F Bruce Willis line by Anthony Anderson, which again, Nate's talked about before.
I was going to
That's
say
not the line that was supposed to be used in the movie.
there exactly. I was going to ask you if you knew the story.
Yep.
And just for those who are watching, real quick, who may not know, that particular scene, Anthony Edwards playing Officer Perkins, was stabbed in the head, remember, at the police car. That particular scene, and Nick, keep me honest, but the way I recall what Nate was telling me was that Wes wanted so badly for him to do a serious take after he gets out of the car. And Anthony, the actor, because he's a comedian, you guys know he's a funny guy.
He was having fun with it, doing some funny
He was having fun. Yeah, he did like funny take after funny take, and they kept going and going, and then finally, like, Wes begged him, said, "Please, I just want one take, so we'll have it."
Yep.
And he did it.
Yep.
And he did a serious take, and Nate said that Wes liked it, like it was really good.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's what was supposed to be in the movie, was the serious take.
The serious take. And then what happens? Whoever edited this thing was not Patrick Lussier. He did the first three. Whoever edited this, I forgot who it was, but they put in the one of the stupid Bruce Willis take.
Yep, and I think we can. I think there's one person responsible for that, and I believe
Bob.
I believe his name is Bob Weinstein.
Bob Weinstein. Exactly. Yes, I agree. I'm telling you, you would think the way they behave, the Weinsteins, you would think they were trying to sabotage their own property.
They've never understood it.
No.
Like, they wanted to fire Wes Craven just a couple days into filming the first movie.
I know.
They wanted to fire him.
Gosh.
So they had to quickly, Patrick had to quickly assemble part of that opening scene just to show it, to Bob and Harvey. Be like, no, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. And then they I still don't think they fully understood it. They just decided to let Wes stay on, but they did. I think they did replace the DP. And
jeez. Dude, and I've always said it like this, Nick. It's one thing if you're a studio head or heads of a studio and you're hiring, and again, this is not a knock on anybody, because everyone has to grow up and we all are one age at another time. But my point is, if they had hired some kid just out of college, they're going to give a chance to direct this movie, right? Like he's green. He's got maybe a couple of documentaries under his belt. Okay, maybe you get a little hands-on. They're hiring Wes. This is Wes Craven. He's their legend. He's living legend in their presence. Yeah. The guy's a legend. He is a master filmmaker. And you are meddling, Nick, in his business. And I'm like, how could you do that? The disrespect to go in there and tell him he's wrong. He's not doing it right. Dude, let him make his movie.
That's the biggest problem. That's not just Dimension or the Weinstein Company or Miramax. That's every big studio in Hollywood. That a lot of these people at the top, they think they know more than the people making this movie. And sometimes, it's just it's a contest where they just they want you to know that they're in charge. We control this movie, not you.
Ego.
And that's why there's a lot of smaller companies, like Blumhouse and stuff. Mm-hmm. You might not like every movie they put out, but Jason Blum gives his filmmakers full creative control of the movies they make. And you have to respect that.
He sure does. And Christopher Landon, when I interviewed him last month, he said the same thing.
Yep.
He said, Blumhouse will let you make your movie.
Yep.
And he says they don't give you a lot of time necessarily.
Yeah.
But they stay out of it. They let you go do it. That's why they hire you. And that's so good on the Blumhouse, man. It's just something else. Hey, we got a super chat coming in real quick, Nick. Robbie, sending in a $5 super chat. Robbie, thank you for your support. Says, hey, from Toronto, Craven and Nick, do you think Patrick Dempsey and Kirby are going to be back? And who do you want to see opening kill, Nick? Ooh. I'll let you take it first, buddy.
All right. I'll start with Patrick first. Do I think Patrick will be back? I think there's a good chance he could be back.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, that's really all I can say, I guess. I mean, I guess it's possible that he could be back. Scream is relevant again. He's relevant again. He's sexiest man alive.
And Thanksgiving comes out.
Yeah,
right?
Thanksgiving's about to come out. So who knows? It's very possible that he's back. I do know that I think if a certain somebody else returns, I think he would definitely consider it.
She's coming back.
Kirby, and this is tough. I love Hayden Panettiere.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved her for a long time. And she's my age, so I kind of grew up with her and everything she did.
Mm-hmm.
Her character of Kirby Reed in Scream 4 is one of my favorite horror movie characters of all time. Her character of Kirby Reed in Scream 6 is not one of my favorite horror movie characters of all time.
I know.
I still really love her, but I think Scream 7 can go with or without her.
Yeah.
You can either let her go off, do her FBI thing, or you can involve her. It makes no difference.
That's right.
Now, who do I want to see as an opening kill? Mindy.
Mm-hmm.
I want Mindy to die.
Oh, gosh, dude. Yes. Yes.
I have a whole opening scene in my head. But if it played out, I think this would be awesome.
I hope it has something to do with her giving the rules in this over-the-top, horrible manner like she did in the park in 6. I couldn't stand that scene. And all of a sudden, a knife just goes right through her throat while she's giving the rules. I'm like, there we go. But no, I would love to hear your opening. But
no, yeah, I won't go that deep. But yeah,
that's okay.
Like, I don't know. I love the actress. I think she's great.
I
enjoy the character Mindy Meeks, which is why, I think she has to die because she is a likable character. You have to die.
Yeah.
Scream 2 isn't Scream 2 if Randy doesn't die.
Man, I know.
So Mindy's got to die, and maybe Chad does too.
Maybe. Although I think at this point he's a Terminator. I don't think he's even. I think he's more machine than human. They've had to rebuild him now.
I tweeted, because it's so obvious that they are trying to make him the new Dewey.
Absolutely.
And I get it. Mason Gooding is awesome. He's an awesome dude. He's
I like
great
him.
Screen presence. He's charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
But I said on Twitter the other day, I said, if Chad is not a deputy for the Woodsboro Police Department in Scream 7, we riot.
No. Dude. Could you imagine, seriously, if Chad is a cop and is he the deputy? Oh,
the thing is,
no.
I can imagine it.
Dude. I will laugh, man. That'd be classic. But you're right, because they definitely want him to be Dewey. There's no doubt about it. But I'll say this too, and we'll get into Scream 7 talk in just a second. We're making our way here to 6. We're almost there.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. With 7, and we'll talk more about it in just a second. Christopher Landon to me is the wild card, and when I interviewed him, man, I asked him a question that was very purposeful when I asked it, because we couldn't talk about Scream 7, which completely obvious for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I asked him the question. I said, look, in most of your movies, you've directed, you've also written or had a part in, or one of the writers. How important is it to you that you have your say? I can't remember my exact words, but yet you have a say in the story and in the writing of the script. And I was like, please, please, please. And his first words were, he says it's actually pretty critical that I have a part in this story and the script. And Nick, when he said that, I maintained this composure, but inside my heart was doing jumping jacks and cartwheels, because I was like, because Radio Silence did none of that. They made it very clear in interviews that they were separate from James and Guy. They were not involved with the story. They were given their script and they made that movie.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's fine. You can do it that way. But this tells me, though, as we get into 6 here, some of the plot holes that drive me nuts, I still love it. I love 6. I enjoy it. And again, it's rewatchable. I think it's very rewatchable. But there are some issues that I have with the story. It's the writing. And I believe that if we do in fact have a draft from James and Guy, which was the rumor that a draft's been completed, if that's true, then I believe that Christopher has already been going through that. He's been making notes, red marking, I believe adding things to it already. So I'll just say this regarding Christopher Landon being the wild card for 7. I believe anything's possible now because he will come in there with his perspective, his views, and these characters, like he said in the interview with me, he said, "I'm not afraid to kill my darlings, and there will be blood. I promise you this, there will be blood." So I said that. I talked for a long time. I said all that to say, Nick, I think we may finally get a bloodbath. Slaughtering survivors left and right in this movie. I think it's possible. What are your thoughts on that with Christopher Landon coming in?
I am 100% on the Christopher Landon train.
Yes.
The 2 Happy Death Days I think are awesome. Freaky is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a good sense of the genre. And I think, and people, they're saying, no, Happy Death Day and Freaky, those are too funny to be a Scream movie. I know that. He knows that.
Exactly.
He's not going to make, a freaky Scream movie.
No.
He's going to make a Scream movie.
That's
he
right.
understands the genre. He understands horror. He understands whodunit slashers. Happy Death Day 1 and 2 were fantastic whodunit slasher movies.
So good.
So yeah, I think Christopher Landon's going to be great. I love that he's going to put his stamp on the screenplay. I think it's safe to say that James and Guy 100% did complete a draft for Scream 7.
I believe they did too. Yep.
Whether or not they come back to it, maybe they don't. Maybe they wrote their draft and they're done with it.
That's it. Yeah,
they're done. There's our draft. Now Landon's going to do whatever he's going to do to it. That's great. Maybe he brings in his buddy Michael Kennedy.
That's right.
Who Michael Kennedy, one of the biggest Scream fans I've ever met.
Yes.
Funny story. I've known Michael Kennedy since like 2007.
Okay.
Way before he was a professional screenwriter and everything. He was a member of my Scream message board.
That's so cool, man.
Way back in the day. So I still talk to him all the time. Like we go way back.
Oh, that's so good.
Funny story. I won't release it, but he did write a script for Scream 4.
Ooh, really?
Right before Scream 4 was officially announced.
Bro, that's cool. I would love to see that, man. Oh my gosh.
Him writing that script could have very well been what sparked them actually hiring Kevin to write Scream 4.
Oh man.
Because I know he wrote a script. He had an agent submit it to the Weinsteins. They had it for a while.
Dude, I've never heard that. That's awesome.
It never happened. Who knows? I have the script. I might send it to you. But,
dude, I would love to read it in confidence. I would, of course, not share it.
Remember, this was written by a very young Michael Kennedy.
But
it is. What's funny? It is very much a sequel to Scream 3.
Oh,
which is something that we do not get in the Scream movies.
No.
Up until Scream 6, every Scream sequel is a sequel to Scream 1.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Scream 2 is a sequel to Scream 1. Scream 3 is a sequel to Scream 1. It's not sequelizing the events of Scream 2.
No, it's not.
Nothing that happened in Scream 2 really affects or changes what's going to happen in Scream 3.
It's true.
Scream 4 is a sequel to Scream 1. Scream 5 is a sequel to Scream 1. And then Scream 6 is a sequel to Scream 5.
Yes.
It finally got back on.
That's right.
So
back on the sequel track finally, but it took a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael Kennedy's awesome. I I was supposed to have interviewed him last week, and we had a family emergency. He had to reschedule. So I'll have him on later in the month, and I'm really looking forward to meeting him. I would, dude, if he joined, could you imagine Scream 6 written by Christopher Landon and Michael Kennedy, and then using the James and Guy outline or initial script, and then they go, man, it would be amazing.
Even unofficially, because
yeah.
Because you got to think, Michael could work on the script for Scream 7 and not even be credited for it or anything. Like, that happens. You know, like we talked about, Wes Craven has pitched in on all 4 of the original Scream scripts.
That's right.
He's never credited as a writer, but he wrote a lot of all 4 of them.
Yes, he did.
You know, like, what was her name? Lita Colagridis wrote a majority of Scream 3. Nobody knows who that is. Nobody's heard that name.
That's true, man. You're
she
right.
Wrote giant chunks of Scream 3. Scott Derrickson wrote giant chunks of Scream 4. Nobody knows that.
No. Nope. Never talked about. Nope.
Yeah. So
that's so true.
There's lots of, when you say that, a Scream movie has to be written by Kevin Williamson and Kevin Williamson only.
Right.
Not really, because no Scream movie was written by Kevin Williamson only.
That's right. No, it's so true.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin coming in with the $5 super chat. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the support. Says, I've been saying it for years. I want to hear your honest thoughts on this. Stu isn't alive. I know you feel that way, brother. You know I love you. Principal Hembry is alive, and he's the true mastermind. Oh, Justin. Dude, I tell you. Wah, 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 wah.
Okay, if that's truly what you think, then more power to you.
More power to you. Absolutely, Justin. I support you, brother. 100%.
I do not subscribe to this theory.
Yeah, I don't think him hanging by the goalposts that's going to be hard to recover from, being gutted and the goalpost.
Yeah, I mean, his character literally was added to the movie to kill.
Yeah.
Literally as a means to get the kids, out of Stu's house. Like, that was it. That's the sole purpose of Principal Hembry.
Got to thin out the crowd, get us down to our final few people. But Justin, you're all right, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the support. All right. And real quick, my buddy Marcus over at I Shot Him 6 Times. Good friend of mine, great content creator here on YouTube. So when Chris said there'll be blood, I feel it has the potential to get brutal. Not overly, of course, but messy as heck. Bring it on. I think so too, man. This could be I think it could be a really, really bloody Scream movie.
Which would be interesting because neither the Happy Death Days or Freaky are overly bloody movies. So we haven't even seen Christopher Landon make a bloody movie yet.
That's true. There will be a little bit more if he goes that route. Yeah, he'll be him open kind of some new territory. But that's okay, man. Bring it on. Bring another gallon of blood, a gallon or two of blood. Let's get it on. Wes used 50 gallons, he said, in Scream 1. So, I mean, hey, let's go. Let's go. Let's do 100. No, that may be too much. And Justin with another $5 super chat. Justin, thanks, buddy. For the record, Stu is definitely alive. However, he didn't see Hembry die. We just heard of it and never saw a body. LOL. It's a fun joke. I know, buddy. It's a fun joke. And I totally get you, man. I get you.
Well, Stu is definitely alive in the hearts of Scream fans.
And in Scream 7. Stay tuned. No, I don't know. We'll see. And Justin says, Hembry is merely a satire of the Stu theory. Yep, I got you, buddy. I catch you what you're throwing. Thank you for the super chats, my friend. Much appreciated. All right. So Nick, as we start to wrap here, Scream 6 comes out, and we're in New York, new setting, well, Montreal, but we're in New York in the movie. And what were your thoughts now after watching that the first time? I always like to ask you that. The first viewing, what were your thoughts?
I I really liked it. I think I left the theater liking 6 more than I liked 5.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's weird. And I still feel that way. I still put 6 above 5.
I do too.
Even though 6 took some swings, man. Like
A lot of firsts. Yeah.
It's really, it tried to go there.
Yep.
And some of it, isn't necessarily like, that's not Scream.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it works for what they're doing for the Sam Carpenter arc. Like, this works.
Mm-hmm.
Sam is not Sydney.
No.
Her scenarios and what is happening to her is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this movie actually goes out of its way to kind of tell us that it's good. I liked it. It's not my favorite,
right?
But it is good. Again, that's another thing. There's not a bad Scream movie.
There's not, man.
Scream 6 is very enjoyable. It's fun. I think my favorite aspect of it is that it mirrors Scream 2 in so many ways. Because like for years, like Scream 2 was the end all. Like Scream 2 was it. Like that's like horror sequels don't get better than Scream 2.
Yeah.
Opinions change. But Scream 6 was so awesome how it mirrored it. Like Scream 5 mirrors Scream 1. Scream 6 mirrors Scream 2. We got the college setting. Obviously, it's a slightly bigger scale because even though Windsor College is still, you can tell it's a small town. Obviously, New York is a little bit bigger than a small town Windsor.
Oh yeah.
But you got the college setting. You've got the same like sorority and fraternity names, which is an awesome little wink and nod to Scream 2. Obviously, the shrine is awesome.
Oh yeah.
You could argue that the shrine doesn't have quite the impact it could have had Sydney been witness to it.
Oh, could you imagine Sydney walking through there? Oh,
but they got a good way that they explain it because that shrine wasn't made for anybody.
No,
like it's not like it only works if it's made for Sydney, but it's not. That's Richie's collection. That's his personal stuff that he owns, that he's tracked down. So I guess it works. They make it work. They make Sydney's absent work for this shrine. The shrine was cool. It was awesome. The killers, they're fine. I don't have an issue with the killers. Like I said earlier, Dermot Mulroney's character, I think, tries to be Laurie Metcalf a little too hard.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate because I think Dermot's a fantastic actor. And I think he can go dark. He can do that. But he did something different. But I will
say, the minute he said, "Oh, yeah, of course it's me," I'm like, "Oh no."
One thing I have noticed.
That's great. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Watching it in theater, those were my only cringe moments when I was literally sitting in my seat going, "Oh no."
Yes.
There's a lot of his reveal dialogue at the end.
Yes.
However, rewatching it a couple times, it gets a lot less cringe and a little more tolerable. Now that you know he's the killer and you can go back and rewatch the movie knowing he's the killer, his reveal is a lot easier to swallow. It's one of the, after multiple viewings, it becomes fine. It's not really cringy. It's just, it is.
Yeah.
That's the Scream 6 finale. So it's, I don't know, it's not that bad. Ethan and Quinn, I think, are great. You kind of see Ethan a mile away being one of the killers. Quinn's was shocking because of the fake out death.
Yep, it was.
That's what I don't want in Scream 7. Stop with the fake out deaths.
Yeah.
It's
no
done.
More. Okay.
Scream has done it. You can say they've perfected it. It's done. You don't need fake out deaths anymore.
Okay.
Either show us the killer or not. Sometimes the fake out death, and I know they kind of get away with it in 6 because Wayne, is a detective for the NYPD, so it's more plausible. Unlike, I've always argued like Roman's fake death in Scream 3, like that scene doesn't even need to be there. Because at the point you see Roman's dead body, you've already forgotten about that character. You didn't need to be reminded of him. His character has already slipped your mind. So the fact that they want to show us his dead body and Gail checks his pulse,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I know it's vague. You don't know what she felt. You don't know, but it's unnecessary. You didn't need it. It's unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was not necessary. I would agree about that. I guess the other thing though, too, they wanted to have an account of where he was, I guess. Maybe.
Probably,
Like,
I think that was their train of thought. But like I just said, by that point in the movie, you kind of forget about him.
yeah.
You're
Mm-hmm.
so invested in, all these other characters like, Jennifer and Tyson and
Oh,
Angelina. It's like you kind of forget about Roman for a second. That's fine.
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, think about Mickey. You
Yeah.
kind of forget about Mickey in two.
Oh, totally. You completely forget about him.
He's gone. He's out of sight. You never even think about
Yeah,
him.
that's
And
another thing. I think the first time I watched Scream 2, when he took his mask off, for a split second, I was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's the guy earlier from."
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
but we didn't need a fake out death. We didn't. You just
Right.
gotta remember it. He's in the movie.
Mm-hmm. True. Um, yeah, man. And Scream 6 did some things I liked. I mean, as well. I liked that we had the very first ever Ghostface revealing themselves. Because I was like, whenever in that opening kill with Samara, where it's Laura's getting killed, and he's like, now I see something red, and he does the knife swipe down, the blood shoots on the mask, and then I'm waiting for the Scream 6 title card to show up, and there's like, it's just the camera stays on him, and I'm like, what's happening? It's like and then he's like, pulls off the mask. I'm like, what? Okay, all right, we're in new territory. This has never happened before in the beginning of a movie like this with a Scream movie. So they did some things I liked that were original. And we also got two Ghostface attacking a victim at the same time. That was with Chad. That had never been done either.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, Nick, they took some swings. And these are some of the swings I think for me that landed. Of course, Chad should have died.
Yeah,
As
see,
far as
that takes away from it a little
it
bit, almost,
does.
where it's like, so
It
two
does.
Ghostface couldn't kill him,
Right. That's funny you say that because in Scream 6, we have the most ghost faces we've ever had in a Scream movie, and we have the most survivors than we've ever had in a Scream movie. Think about that. It's backwards math. It doesn't make sense.
Yep.
We've got 3 core ghost faces. We've got 2 ghost faces which are not associated with them. Of course, one's dead, but one we see do get a kill in. And even with all of that, we have everyone live. And I think that was just a major mistake for me. The stakes just go down to nothing now. So that was my biggest, I think, thing that I took away as a negative for 6 was just not enough victims. Somebody in that, at least one of the core 4 should have not.
That's why I say, if they really were trying to mirror Scream 2, then do it. Kill a very likable character.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't be afraid to do that.
That's right.
You got to do it.
Well, and like with Chad, when he was stabbed 17 times, I felt bad because I like Chad. I'm like, oh no. Yeah. But I'm like, dang, but they did it. I'm like, okay, he's dead. That's it. And when they announced he was alive, I said, oh no, you just took away what would have been talked about as one of the top kills of the franchise.
Yep.
If he had died. But now it's not, it's just like,
it's not even a kill.
It wasn't even a kill. It was a cool attack.
Yeah, it's a cool attack.
That's it. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, this has been an amazing time. Nick, we were going to do an hour. We're over 2, and I really appreciate you doing this, man. This was so generous of you to stay with us this long. I have one last question, if you have a second, just one last question that came in from a time traveler who, and then I'm going to ask you your Scream rankings, and then we'll call it a show. Time traveler says, I'm curious for your guys' top 5 ghost faces. Both of you. Okay. So do you have that ranking pretty good in your head, Nick?
I'm going to be completely honest. I have never thought about it.
Oh wow.
People ask me all
Okay.
the time, they're like, "Who's your favorite Ghostface?" I don't know, but I can do it really fast. I can tell you who
Sure.
my number one.
Okay.
Mickey is my number one
Gotcha.
because
Yeah.
he's batshit crazy. He's insane.
Mhm.
Again, no connection to characters that are actually involved in the story. So Mickey's number one. I'll
Okay.
put Stu as number two. Uh, Only
Nice.
because we know for a fact that Stu is the Ghostface for the majority of the end of
Mhm.
Scream 1, and that's some of the best Ghostface action we get.
That's right.
So, and it's awesome. So Stu would be my Ghostface number 2, 3. Uh, I might go Charlie because I kind of put Charlie on that Mickey
Mm.
level where
Yeah.
they're both kind of doing it for fame. One wants to get caught, one doesn't,
Right.
but it's still doing it for fame.
He was brutal too. That
Yeah.
Olivia kill. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. So that's 3. My number 4. I guess maybe I'd say Richie.
Okay.
He just seems like his head's in the right place. He's obviously a little crazy, a little insane.
Right.
It's almost weird when you watch Scream 5 when his plan crumbles before his eyes at the end. He almost has that look of sadness on his face, like it's not supposed to go this way.
That's right.
And it's like almost like nothing he was doing he thought was going to have real world consequences.
Yes.
But it does. So it shows you how warped he was.
Oh, 100%.
So
What about my ending?
Yeah. So he's my number 4, and for number 5, Billy.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Good, man. Great list. It's a great lineup. I think for me, I'll just go with Stu. It's my number 1. I'm probably going to put Billy at 2. I'm going to put Jill at 3. I'm going to put Roman at 4. And I'm going to put Mickey at 5. And that was really fast. But now this could all change literally in an hour, just so you guys know. But that's probably where I'm at. It's hard, though, when you start getting into some of these guys because, like you said, man, and of course, I'm a big Roman fan personally. I really do like him as a Ghostface. That's why I ranked him 4. But Mickey's right up there. And, on any given day, I could easily swap those two and put Mickey up,
And you have Stu as your number 1. And that's
is.
awesome because I used to have a theory, and it's not something it's not a hill I'll die on or anything, but I used to have a theory that like Billy wasn't even a Ghostface. Like this is a theory I had when I was younger. Like obviously he is one of the killers, but he never wore the costume. I always had this theory that he was basically just using Stu, and Stu did all of the killings.
Ooh.
And how I used to like anchor this is because the Tatum kill, it's easy to say, oh, it's Billy. But then I was always like, well, no, but the killer goes back in the house.
Yeah, he goes back inside.
Billy's outside.
That's right.
So, but again, you can argue it both ways. It's not and it's one of those things that us as fans put a lot more thought in who killed who than the filmmakers did. That's a fact.
That's true.
I've heard that firsthand. So,
yep, I 100% agree.
Yeah, they have one rule when writing a Scream script is the same person can't be in one scene at the same time. So if you're gonna reveal a person as a killer, they can't also be in a scene being attacked by a killer if there's one killer. So
I love it, man.
So
that's awesome. And my buddy Marcus over sometimes, it fills my heart with joy hearing Charlie and Nick's top 3. Let's go. That's right. Because Nick, that's Marcus, who I was talking about earlier, who's on the Charlie truck, who's on that Charlie's still alive. So that's why it warmed his heart when you said Charlie at 3.
Told you he should have got his one last scare moment.
That's right. Yes, totally. All right, guys. Well, listen, be sure you go follow Nick over on Twitter or X. He's got his own account. which we've been putting in the chat here, as well as scream-thrillogy on Twitter or X. And be sure you follow those. And if my moderators could put those links one last time, I would greatly appreciate it. Val or Polar or Denisha, whoever, I know Val's still here, but if one of you would do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And also, don't forget, guys, to visit Nick's actual website, which is the Scream-thrillogy site. And I'll put that link right now in the chat. And as he mentioned earlier, go check out the archives. There's some great stuff here. So there it is right there. You guys can go right there. After this stream ends, click that link. And that's on Twitter. Sorry, that's the Twitter. Do that too. Follow them on Twitter too. Hang on. I want to get this right for you, Nick. I want to get sure we got all of them for everyone. So it makes it super simple for you guys in the chat. And there it is. There's the website. There it comes.
I am going to answer a time traveler real fast.
Oh, sure. Which question was it?
You're surprised that I didn't put Jill or Roman in my top 5.
Oh, yeah. There it is, yeah.
I think, obviously, kind of like what Kirby said, like, kudos to Roman for ambition, for being the only solo Ghostface. Like, that's awesome. Good for him. He's just not in my top 5. Jill might be my single most favorite killer in the entire series.
Oh, man, she's great.
But I'm not going to say she's my favorite Ghostface, because when you ask me my favorite Ghostface, I'm thinking of just who was the best, in costume, doing the thing, no, obviously, like none of them did it. Stuntman, it's all this. Right. But when you can verify who was supposed to be Ghostface in whatever scene, I have to say Jill doesn't crack that list.
Okay.
But as far as like motive, personality, craziness, Jill's number 1, no question.
Oh yeah, man. Woo. Amazing. Love it. She was fantastic. Just what a great job Emma Roberts did.
Oh yeah. And that is a textbook example of any actors that have been stuck with Nickelodeon or Disney. If you want to break out of that, watch Emma Roberts in Scream 4. That is how you shed that image.
Big time, man. Woo-hoo. I love it. Yeah, so good. Just so good. Yeah, and they said Jill's motive is the best. Absolutely. Hands down. Robbie says, thanks, Nick. This was enjoyable coming from a big Scream fan.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed me ramble. This is the first live stream I've ever done. So
really, I didn't know that.
Admittedly, I was pretty nervous to do this. I usually, if I'm going to talk Scream, I just write an article and hit post. But yeah, and also, you said something earlier about how it's respecting opinions even if they're different.
Sure.
And all that. And I was gonna say something, but I can't tell you how many like tweets I write and then delete and don't even post it, because I'm like, it's not worth the backlash this is gonna cause. I'm not gonna argue with anybody. I'm just not gonna post it.
It's a shame. It's a shame, isn't it? Because you just know that there's certain folks that won't be able to handle an adult difference of opinion, respect thing. And you're right. Just knowing the garbage you're going to have to deal with and delete or respond to. And that's a shame, man. It really is. It's, and trust me, you're not alone, buddy. Let me tell you, I know other content creators on YouTube and even on Twitter that also feel the same way. And it's like, if I do this thing, I really want to do this video, but if I do it, it's going to be like, people are going to just ripping me in half. And so they just don't do it. And it's a shame that, we just, again, guys, I hope that, I don't know, the community of my channel, you guys are wonderful guys, wonderful ladies, wonderful people. But just remember that, if you disagree with someone on a movie opinion, talking about Scream, be it whatever, if someone's alive or dead, or if one movie's better or one, it doesn't really matter what it is. Just remember, guys, these are all opinions, and your opinion is an opinion. Mine's an opinion. Nick's is an opinion, because this is subjective art. And that's the whole point of it, though, is that, right? You know, it's like if someone says, and I know a lot of folks who have Scream 3 is their favorite Scream movie. And I love that. I'm like, wonderful. That's because there's something in that movie that when they watched it, it connected with them, and it's still their favorite. And I say, and you know what? That's wonderful. And it just doesn't. And I'm leading this up to our rankings we're going to give, because it doesn't matter where we rank the movies or what opinions or theories we believe or don't believe. At the end of the day, guys, we're all fans. We're all fans of these movies. We love them. And we need to respect each other and be friendly and kind to each other, guys. Because plenty of people in this world will try to tear you down. But we need to lead by example and lift each other up and encourage one another. Even if we don't agree with a view, we appreciate the person. And I always say it, Nick, here on the channel, I say it like this: people matter. People are the most important thing, Nick. And if we ever start putting our views or opinions over people in relationships, that's when we lose. That's when we lose. And the key is, if we always keep each other number one and everything else comes after that, then we'll always respect each other. And we'll nurture good, fun, and healthy relationships in our community. And I hope that what you've seen tonight with Nick and I is a great example of how, whatever our views are, we are still friends. We're still friendly. We respect each other. It's okay. It's all right to think differently. That's the beauty of all this. So, you know, Nick, and I appreciate you, Nick, as well, man. You do an amazing job on the website. I appreciate all your work, and on Twitter. You work hard at what you do. It shows. And thank you for what you've contributed and are contributing to this community.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I don't nearly have the time that I used to have, you know, but I still, I try to report the news. I don't spread lies and rumors.
No, you do not.
I try to stick with facts. And
that's right.
So if anybody's interested in reading basically a full history archive from Scream 3 till now, I highly suggest just browse on my site. Like, just keep going back. Like, the posts literally go back to, I think, 98. So
wow, that's amazing. Well, I got to go back and do that myself, man. I need to go deep, like way back. And guys, there it is. This is where you need to go. So after the stream, go visit Nick's site if you have not, and even if you have, go visit it again and go in these archives like he's talking about. What wonderful history, man, for that's there. It's awesome.
Yeah, we try, and I like to think that we've left a legacy even within the movies, because I don't like openly claim it, but I do. And I think Ryan Showers from his Scream podcast, I think he agrees with me on this, that I think I was the first person to coin Core 4 when I referred to the main four characters as the new Core 4.
Interesting. Well,
then it popped up in the new movie, and he immediately messaged me. He was like, "Did you see that?" I was like, "I did."
That's hilarious, because I was wondering. I started using the phrase. I had not heard it used, but I wondered, because I'm trying to remember when I started. I remember doing a stream, and I've been meaning to go back and see. I believe it was in February or March of last year. It was like a couple of months after 5 was out. And I went on a Lethal Collective, which is my other channel I had with some other creators. And I said, guys, from now on, I'm going to call these people the Core 4.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to refer to them. Now, I had not seen your article, but you may have preceded me. Because because I was probably, I'm going to say it was March of 2022. I'd have to go back and double check. It could be February, but I think it's March. But if you beat me, bro, then that's awesome. That's awesome. I did not, because I had not heard anyone use that, at least in in on videos or things prior to that. But dude, I will gladly give you all the credit in the world on that one if you preceded me. But either way,
wish I could find it. I can't.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's. If you come across it, let me know. I'm just curious, but I think it's awesome either way.
You may have beaten me. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, it can either way. Either way, it's still cool.
Yeah, it's a phrase that was always in my head because on the internet years ago, people would always refer to the first 4 Friday the 13th movies. They would call it the Core 4. That's the Core 4. So that's
cool.
It was always in my head. So when I knew that the 4 main cast members were returning, I was like, oh, the Core 4.
The Core 4. That's so cool.
And obviously the writers thought the same thing. So
I know. I'm like, what? I was shocked when I heard it, and I had a bunch of people message me like, dude, they called him the Core 4. They called him the Core 4. I'm like, I know. I don't know what's going on.
Who knows? Maybe it could have been a wink to both of us. Maybe they saw both. And
you know what? It certainly could be, brother. But yeah, man, that's awesome. That's so cool. Well, guys, listen, everyone in the chat, please follow Nick over on Twitter. The links are all here in the chat. And then visit his website. I had scream-thrillogy.com. And the link, again, you'll see it here in the chat. Go click that when we're done. And it's great stuff, guys. You're going to love what you see there. And you'll even see a little Craving Something Scary pop up here and there, right? So, and that's right, Marcus. Great minds think alike. That's so wild. That's right. Exactly right, my friend. All right. So, Nick, just hang tight. I'll meet you backstage before we wrap up or say goodnight. Okay. But for everyone else, though, thank you for being here. This was an amazing time. Thank you, Nick. And I would love to have you again in the near future if you're up for coming back sometime.
Oh, yeah. Would love to be back.
Wonderful. Okay. So, guys, we'll have a part 2 to this discussion for sure coming up in the near future. In the meantime, though, make sure follow Nick on Twitter. Check out his website. And I will see you all back here on Tuesday. On Tuesday night, I'll be interviewing the production designer of It's a Wonderful Knife. That's in theaters now. Just opened up Friday. Tiana P. Gordon. She'll be joining me at 8:30 Central Tuesday night. So be sure you're here for that. And at the end of the month, I'll be interviewing the director of It's a Wonderful Knife and one of the writers of Five Nights at Freddy's, Tyler McIntyre, on Saturday the 25th at 8 p.m. So be sure you guys are all subscribed and hit the bell icon so that you won't miss any of those streams. All right. On that note, we're going to say goodnight. I'll see you backstage, Nick. And thank you all again. Have a great night. See ya.
Hey, you have been watching Craving Something Scary. This is Lee Waddell, the original Ghostface, thanking you for stopping by and checking it out.